Has anyone ever called you less of a man because of the way you talk? What about the way you walk, or maybe it's the way you look? What about when you express your feelings, your inadequacies, your difficulties, your mental struggles? Have you been asked by others to just suck it up and push through because that's what men do? Men don't complain, they just figure it out and suffer in silence. Have you bottled it up because you do not want to be perceived as less than by other men, or maybe it's your friend circle? Has it been drilled inside of you that the ideal image of a man is someone who is not weak, who is always strong and resilient, incapable of ever breaking down, always pushing through? If your answer is yes to any of this, then you are a product of toxic masculinity. Welcome to this week's digression. What I want to start with are some well-documented facts. Globally, 75 to 80% of suicides are men. 70 to 80% of homeless are men. 80% of homicide victims are men. Majority of bullying victims are boys and men. Men are also the primary aggressors in violent crimes, property crimes, white-collar crimes, and bullying. And despite all of these facts and statistics, they are the only gender that is least likely to reach out for help. The problem here isn't pride or feelings of inadequacy. Almost all of it stems from trying to fit in a culture that has men convinced that they are on their own and no one is going to help them if things get difficult. Many are raised with the idea that they need to grow up strong and resilient because their families and loved ones depend on them, and if things go wrong, then they are on their own. This is an absurd statement that is drilled into young boys by toxic men who were never raised right, who were never shown kindness or forgiveness, who were taught that the only value they have in life is providing for others and overcoming their suffering all on their own until they become nothing more than an empty shell waiting for the day their heart stops beating. Men are the least likely to reach out for help. How many men do you know personally who refuse to get help for their mental and physical struggles? Men who think it's a sign of weakness to get professional help. How many boys do you know that are bullied every day but are just asked to toughen up and fight back? What do you think is happening to the mindset of these boys and young men? Who do you think they're turning to when the people that are supposed to protect them, guide them, be their guardians, start mocking them for being weak, not fighting back, for not being tough, not being a real man? I will tell you who they're turning to. They are turning to the scum that has established itself on the internet as an authority on being an alpha male. Have none of you ever asked yourself why there is a sudden increase in this ideology? These people, and you know who they are, go around preying on boys and men who have broken down, have no one to turn to, and are slowly turning them into some of the most toxic and vile human beings the world has ever seen. You think these people care about the well-being of other men? All they care about is their bottom line. They have perfected their pitch to attract the most vulnerable amongst us. Promises of getting rich, becoming independent, strong, attracting models to be their girlfriends, becoming the alpha male. All that happens is they have their bank accounts drained, are filled with some of the most dangerous rhetoric, and a lot of them end up committing crimes and going to prison. In fact, these so-called alpha males are constantly under investigation for either sexual assault or fraud. You never hear anything positive, and the hive mind they surround themselves with blindly eat up their words and defend them like their lives depend on it. I have personally known men in my life who subscribe to these ideologies, and I have seen them go from well-rounded individuals who just needed some help to broken down men who are afraid to express their feelings because they think they might be considered homosexual, or other men might think they are weak and girly. I have seen these men go into debt, perpetuate dangerous political ideologies, disregard basic science, refuse medical help, resort to alcoholism, and eventually blow their brains out. Because the alpha male way convinced them they are on their own. This is toxic masculinity, and it is an epidemic that is stripping away the sanity of young men and filling them with hate and rage. It is turning them into brutes who think that fighting and dominating are the only ways to be a true man or an alpha male. These so-called alpha males are raising a generation of men who will suffer in silence and will see an increase in suicide rates, male loneliness, and an inability to fit into a society that wants to move away from violence and hate, a society that wants to be inclusive and welcoming. We're going to see a lot of men suffer in the coming years, but we're also going to see a lot of men come out and start to speak against these hateful ideologies, show the world what it did to them, how it messed with their heads and made them believe and see a reality that they thought was against them. In fact, we're already seeing it happen, and there is no stopping it. The horrors that await us will have a profound impact on the male gender. November 19th was International Men's Day. I'm sure many of you might have read about it. 80% of my male friends had no idea that it happened or what it actually stands for. A lot of them considered it a celebration for weak men, and when I informed them that this is about recognizing the struggles men face, recognizing the positive things that they bring to the world, the responses range from, well, they just need to suck it up and do it, or men are meant to suffer alone because no one wants a man that is struggling, or no one cares about men and this is just a fake holiday to make money from them. Before I leave you, there's a quick lesson I want to impart. In the animal kingdom, there can only be one alpha. There can never be two. If you are someone who has paid for a course from one of these online grifters and all the members of the course receive a certificate at the end claiming that they are now an alpha, you are not. You have been scammed, and these grifters have now pre-ordered their new sports car or probably paid off their next sexual assault. Please feel free to share your own experiences with toxic masculinity in the comments below. I will see you all in next week's Digression. Take care and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.